In a high-end retail store, a simple visit turns into a battle of dignity and justice when a racist woman targets a hardworking mother. What happens next will leave you stunned. Imagine walking into a store just trying to buy a few things for your child, only to be humiliated and judged by someone who believes they're better than you. That's exactly what happened to Ava, a single mom who found herself at the mercy of a woman who didn't just insult her. She tried to ruin her life. But Ava wasn't going to let this slide. What unfolds next is a shocking twist that proves kindness, strength, and standing up for what's right always wins. Trust me, you won't believe what happens when Ava turns the tables on this entitled woman. Keep watching. You won't want to miss the ending. Before we dive deeper into this gripping story, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, Epic Story Moments, yet now is the perfect time. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and be the first to hear our incredible new stories. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support more heartwarming tales like this. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Karen was the lead sales associate at an upscale retail store, known for her condescending attitude and judgmental behavior. She took pride in scrutinizing customers, whether it was their appearance, accents, or purchasing choices. To Karen, the store's elite image was not just a standard to uphold, but a personal validation of her superiority over others. Every day, she would patrol the store with an air of entitlement, ensuring only those she deemed worthy felt welcome. Outside the store's gleaming glass door stood Ava, a single mother with a quiet resolve in her eyes. She held a neatly folded, slightly worn resume in her hands and adjusted her simple but clean outfit. Ava was there with one goal in mind: to secure a better future for her young daughter, Lily. The weight of her struggles was apparent, but so was her determination. Ava had faced countless hardships as a single mom, juggling odd jobs and making sacrifices to ensure Lily had everything she needed. Today, Ava had decided to try her luck at this high-end store. She had heard about an opening in the men's department and thought her prior retail experience might give her a chance. Though her resources were limited, her resolve was unshakable. Ava had one rule she lived by. No matter how tough life got, she would always carry herself with dignity. Stepping into the store, Ava immediately felt the stark difference in atmosphere. Everything from the polished floors to the luxurious displays seemed designed to intimidate someone in her position. But Ava wasn't one to back down easily. She took a deep breath and walked toward the counter, ready to ask for the manager. Karen, who was meticulously rearranging a shelf of expensive leather shoes, spotted Ava as soon as she entered. Her eyes narrowed as she took in Ava's modest appearance. Karen's face twisted into a smirk as she thought to herself, "She doesn't belong here." Ava approached the counter with a polite smile. "Excuse me, I'm here to apply for the sales associate position in the men's department. I have my resume with me," she said, her voice steady but kind. Karen looked her up and down, her disapproval evident. "Are you serious?" she scoffed. "We have a certain image to maintain here. You can't just walk in looking like that and expect to work here." Ava blinked, momentarily stunned by the blunt rudeness. She swallowed the lump in her throat and said calmly, "I understand, but I do have experience in retail, and I believe I can be an asset to your team." Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "Look, I don't think you understand how things work here. This isn't some bargain store. We cater to high-profile clients, and they expect a certain standard." Before Ava could respond, a small voice interrupted. "Mommy, are we getting breakfast after this?" It was Lily, peeking shyly from behind her mother. Karen's gaze shifted to the little girl, her disdain only growing. "Oh, I see. You brought your kid to a job interview? That's professional," she sneered. Ava clenched her fists but kept her composure. "She's with me because I didn't have anyone to watch her. I'm doing the best I can for her," Ava replied, her voice firm but calm. Karen leaned back, crossing her arms smugly. "Well, maybe if you made better decisions, you wouldn't be in this situation," she said with a condescending laugh. Ava felt a wave of frustration, and hurt but refused to let it show. She knew she couldn't let Karen's words affect her. For Lily's sake, she had to stay strong. Just then, the store manager walked into the room. Noticing Ava and sensing the tension, he approached the counter. "Is everything okay here?" he asked, glancing between Ava and Karen. Karen immediately put on a fake smile. "Oh, everything's fine. Just letting this applicant know we're looking for someone who better fits the store's image," she said sweetly, though her words dripped with malice. The manager raised an eyebrow but didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned to Ava. "Can I see your resume?" he asked kindly. Ava handed it over, grateful for his professionalism. Karen's smirk faltered as she watched the manager carefully read Ava's resume. For the first time, it seemed like the situation wasn't entirely under her control. Ava stood tall, holding her daughter's hand tightly, silently hoping for a chance to prove herself. Ava stepped into the brightly lit store, holding her resume in one hand and her daughter Lily's hand in the other. She had dressed simply but neatly, with a soft beige blouse and black slacks she had ironed the night before. Her shoes, though worn, were polished and clean. Confidence radiated in her posture as she approached the counter, ready to ask about the open sales associate position. Karen, who was standing behind the counter, immediately noticed Ava's arrival. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned Ava from head to toe, her lips curling into a barely concealed smirk. Dressed in a crisp uniform with perfectly styled hair, Karen believed she embodied the sophistication and class the store demanded. To her, Ava's modest appearance was an affront to the store's high standards. As Ava approached, Karen intercepted her with a raised eyebrow and a pointed look. "Can I help you?" Karen asked, her tone already dripping with condescension. "Yes," Ava began politely, handing over her resume. "I'm here to apply for the sales associate position in the men's department. I have prior experience in retail, and I'd love the opportunity to—" Karen cut her off with a dry laugh. "You're applying here? At this store?" she asked incredulously, holding Ava's resume as though it were contaminated. "I don't think you understand the kind of clientele we cater to. We have an image to maintain, and well, let's just say you don't exactly fit that image." Ava's smile faltered, but she steadied herself. "I understand your concern," she said calmly, "but I assure you, I have the skills and experience necessary for the role. I'm hardworking, dependable, and I'm confident I can contribute positively to your team." Karen crossed her arms, her smirk growing. "Hardworking, huh? Sure. People like you always say that," she said, her tone sharp. Ava blinked, unsure of how to respond. Before she could say anything, Lily tugged gently on her hand. "Mommy, I'm hungry," the little girl whispered. Ava knelt down to reassure her daughter, handing her a small snack she had saved for the moment. Karen watched the interaction with an exaggerated sigh. "Bringing your kid to a job interview? Really? That's so unprofessional," she muttered loud enough for Ava to hear. Ava stood up and looked Karen in the eye. "I didn't have anyone to watch her today. I'm doing my best," she said firmly, her voice calm but resolute. Karen rolled her eyes. "Right. And now you're here to try and scam us too, aren't you?" she said, motioning to a pair of shoes Ava had placed on the counter. "I'd like to return these," Ava said, her voice still polite. "They didn't fit as I'd hoped." Karen snatched the shoes and inspected them with exaggerated scrutiny. "These look worn," she announced loudly. "We don't accept returns on used items." "Nice try, though." "They're not worn," Ava replied patiently. "I only tried them on once at home." Karen shook her head, her smirk returning. "You people always try to cheat the system," she said coldly. "If you can't afford something, don't buy it in the first place." Ava's cheeks flushed, but she refused to lose her composure. "I'm not trying to cheat anyone," she said evenly. "I just want to return them and apply for the job. That's all." Karen leaned closer, her voice dropping into a menacing whisper. "Look, I don't know what sob story you're about to spin, but it's not going to work here. And if you keep pushing, I'll call security. Better yet, I could call CPS and let them know you're dragging your kid around while you're doing whatever it is you do. Ava's breath caught for a moment. Karen's words were like a slap in the face, but she stood her ground. There's no need for that, Ava said firmly. I'm just here to do what any parent would. Take care of my child and try to make a better life for us. Karen scoffed, tossing the shoes back onto the counter. Save the speeches. You're not fooling anyone. Security's watching, so don't try anything. Ava clenched her jaw, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and humiliation. All she wanted was a fair chance to prove herself. She glanced at Lily, who stood quietly by her side, holding her hand tightly. Ava knew she had to stay strong, for both of them. As the tension thickened, another employee walked by and noticed the scene. The store manager had also just entered the floor, his eyes falling on Karen's smug expression and Ava's determined stance. Change was in the air, though Karen couldn't see it coming. Ava stood tall, her shoulders squared and her gaze unwavering. Karen's attempt to belittle her had failed to provoke the reaction she expected. Ava's voice was steady as she replied, I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not going to let you bully me. I'm a paying customer, and I have every right to return these shoes. Karen's smug expression faltered for a brief moment, surprise flickering in her eyes. She hadn't expected such a calm yet assertive response. Most people, she assumed, would either crumble or back down when confronted by her sharp tongue. But Ava was different. Ava continued, her tone unwavering. I understand your store policies. If I'm not able to return these shoes, that's one thing, but accusing me of scamming or calling me a liar is another. I won't tolerate that. She paused, locking eyes with Karen. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just a mother trying to make a better life for her child. The words hung in the air, and for the first time, Karen found herself speechless. Ava's calmness and dignity in the face of the rude remarks stunned her. It wasn't the response Karen had anticipated, and it threw her off balance. She hadn't expected this woman to challenge her in front of others. Before Karen could retaliate, the store manager, Ryan, appeared at the edge of the aisle. He had overheard the commotion from across the floor and, sensing something wasn't right, quickly made his way over. Is there a problem here? Ryan asked, his tone neutral but with an edge of authority. His eyes flicked between Ava and Karen, noting the tension in the air. Karen immediately put on her sweetest customer service smile. Oh, nothing serious, she said with a dismissive wave. This woman is trying to return a pair of shoes she wore, and I was just explaining to her that it's against store policy. She added, she's trying to scam us, but of course, she'll deny it. Ryan raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. Is that so? He asked, glancing at Ava. He could see the quiet strength in her demeanor and the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Ava stood her ground, speaking up once again. I bought these shoes last week, and I've only worn them inside my house. I haven't been able to make the return sooner, but I'm not trying to deceive anyone. She took a deep breath, looking directly at the manager. I just want to follow the store policy and return them. That's all. Ryan nodded slowly, acknowledging Ava's explanation. I understand, he said, before turning back to Karen. I'll need to check the transaction records to verify this, and I'll also have to examine the shoes. Please give me a moment. Karen's smile faltered as she tried to maintain her composure. She hadn't expected the manager to question her. Usually, customers were too intimidated to challenge her, but Ava's insistence had caught him off guard. Ryan took a few steps back, pulling out his tablet and bringing up the store's transaction system. He scanned through the records, quickly finding the purchase Ava had made for the shoes. After a moment, he looked up, his face set in disbelief. According to the records, the shoes were purchased just a week ago, he said, addressing Karen. And the return policy is clearly outlined as 30 days for exchanges and returns, no questions asked. Karen's face flushed with frustration, but she said nothing. Ryan then looked at the shoes. These shoes don't appear to be worn more than once or twice, he said, inspecting them carefully. The saws are still clean, and the interior shows no signs of excessive use. I don't see a reason why she can't return them. Ava's breath released in a slow exhale of relief. She had known she was in the right, but hearing the manager affirm her position felt like a small victory. Ryan turned back to Karen, his tone now firm. Karen, I've worked with you long enough to know you're a valuable member of the team, but I have to be honest. This behavior is unacceptable. Karen blinked, the reality of the situation dawning on her. She had expected to be backed up, but now, with the manager siding with Ava, she found herself on the defensive. Ryan continued, accusing a customer of scamming and using racial slurs isn't just inappropriate. It goes against the values we uphold here. I'm going to have to ask you to step aside while we handle the return properly. Ava gave Ryan a small nod of gratitude. For the first time since she walked into the store, she felt a sense of validation. Karen's face was a mixture of disbelief and anger as she reluctantly stepped away from the counter. Fine, she muttered, crossing her arms. I'll just let you handle it then. Ryan turned to Ava, giving her an apologetic look. I'm truly sorry for the way you've been treated, he said. It shouldn't have happened, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Ava smiled, a quiet but genuine smile. Thank you, she replied. I appreciate that. As Karen stood off to the side, visibly fuming, Ava completed the return without further issue. She knew that, in the end, her patience and dignity had won out. But more than that, she had sent a message that she wouldn't be intimidated, no matter the circumstances. As Ava and Lily walked out of the store, she couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Not just because she had stood up for herself, but because, in that moment, she had shown her daughter that strength, dignity, and fairness were always the best responses, even in the face of adversity. As the return was finalized and Ava was handed her refund, she turned to leave the counter, but just as she was about to walk away, something unexpected happened. Ryan, the manager, approached her quietly, his tone now more confidential. Miss Ava, I just wanted to thank you for how you handled that situation, he began, a hint of sincerity in his voice. Not everyone has the patience or grace to stand up to someone like Karen, but I'm afraid there's more to the story you need to know. Ava paused and looked at Ryan, sensing something significant was coming. What do you mean? She asked, her curiosity piqued. Ryan lowered his voice. Karen's behavior isn't just a one-time thing. It's a pattern. She's been rude to customers, making discriminatory remarks, and even accusing others of fraud. But more troubling, she's been doing this for months, and no one has called her out on it. I reported her several times, but she's always managed to avoid consequences because of her. Let's say, connections within the store. Ava's brows furrowed. She had suspected something wasn't right from the way Karen acted, but hearing that it was a repeated behavior made her blood run cold. So, she's been getting away with this for months? She asked, disbelief in her voice. Ryan nodded gravely. Yes, and I've been told to just let it slide until something serious happens. But what she did to you, calling CPS on a mother just trying to take care of her child, that crossed the line. Ava felt a wave of anger building up inside her, not just for herself, but for all the people Karen had mistreated. As Ryan spoke, Ava's mind started to race. She knew her own strength and dignity had played a crucial role in the situation, but she also knew the power of the people behind the scenes. I appreciate you telling me all of this, Ava said, her voice now more determined. But I think it's time Karen learns there are consequences for her actions. Not just for the way she treated me, but for everyone she's hurt along the way. Ryan nodded, his face serious. I've already forwarded everything to the store owner. He's going to want to have a word with her himself. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed through the aisle. The store owner, a tall man in a sharp suit, entered the scene. His face was set in a stern expression as he walked toward the counter, with an aura of authority that was unmistakable. I was just briefed on the situation, he said, his voice commanding attention. Karen, I've been made aware of your conduct today, and frankly, I'm disappointed. Karen, who had been standing off to the side, visibly froze at the mention of the store owner's name. She turned slowly, her face pale, as she realized the gravity of what was happening. "Mr. Jensen, I didn't mean to—" "Don't even try," Mr. Jensen interrupted, his tone sharp. "I've seen your reports, your treatment of customers, and the way you've been running the store for far too long. Racism, discrimination, and bullying are not things we tolerate here. No matter who you are." Karen's eyes darted from Mr. Jensen to Ryan, her face reddening with a mix of panic and anger. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. The weight of Mr. Jensen's words was too much for her to dismiss with her usual smugness. "I've heard enough," Mr. Jensen continued. "You've created a toxic environment for our customers, and it's time to put an end to it. Effective immediately, you're terminated." "I don't need to explain further." He turned to Ryan, his voice softer now. "Please escort her out." Ava stood still, a quiet satisfaction beginning to settle in her chest. She hadn't expected this level of consequence, but she was grateful that justice was being served, not just for her, but for anyone who had been victimized by Karen's behavior. As Ryan led Karen out of the store, her protest became more frantic, but Mr. Jensen was resolute. "You've been a liability to this store for too long, Karen. We don't need your kind here." Ava watched as Karen was escorted out, her face flushed with humiliation. She felt a quiet triumph in her heart. Not only had she stood up for herself, but now Karen would face the consequences of her actions. It was a powerful reminder that even the most entitled people could fall when their behavior crossed the line. Turning back to Mr. Jensen, Ava gave him a respectful nod. "Thank you for handling this," she said, her voice steady and calm. "It means a lot to me." Mr. Jensen smiled faintly. "It's the least I can do, Ava. We've had our fair share of issues, but we don't stand for that kind of treatment here. You've shown a lot of character today, and that's something we value. In fact, I think you'd be a great fit for this store. If you're still interested, the position is yours." Ava's eyes widened with surprise, but a smile tugged at her lips. "I'd love that. Thank you." As she left the store, her daughter Lily in tow, Ava couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Not only had she stood her ground, but now she had secured a job, and more importantly, she had sent a powerful message that when it came to racism and injustice, there was no room for silence. As the events unfolded, Ava stood tall in the store, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. The confrontation with Karen had been intense, but now, with Karen being escorted out and justice being served, she could finally breathe easy. Mr. Jensen, the store owner, turned to Ava with a warm smile. "Ava, I really have to commend you for how you handled everything today. Most people would have buckled under that kind of pressure, but you stood firm, with grace and dignity. It's something we really value here, and I think you'd be a perfect fit for the store." Ava felt a mixture of surprise and gratitude. She had come in just to buy shoes and apply for a job, not expecting this kind of outcome. But now, as she processed the offer, her heart swelled with pride. She had been through so much in life, fighting for her daughter, making sacrifices, and trying to build a better future. Now, it seemed things were finally turning around. I don't know what to say," Ava replied, trying to hold back her emotions. "This is everything I've been working for, and the way everything turned out, I couldn't have hoped for a better outcome." Mr. Jensen nodded. "It's not just about doing a job. It's about the kind of person you are. People like you, who stand up for themselves and others, are what we need in this store. And not only will you be working here, but we're offering you a position with a much better salary and benefits than the one you originally applied for." Ava's heart skipped a beat. She had been struggling to make ends meet, and now she was being offered a chance to not only support her daughter, but also secure a future that felt far more stable. "Thank you so much. I'll do my best." "You've already shown me what you're capable of," Mr. Jensen said, his voice sincere. "And I'm confident you'll make a real difference here. Let's get you started as soon as possible." Meanwhile, Karen, who had been swiftly escorted out, was left standing outside the store, fuming with humiliation. Her face was flushed with anger and embarrassment as she realized the weight of her actions. She had been so sure that her privilege would shield her from consequences. But now, she was without a job, her reputation shattered. The shame was undeniable. As Karen slunk away, muttering angrily under her breath, a few of the customers who had witnessed the incident exchanged glances. They had seen everything. The way Ava had been mistreated, the strength with which she stood up for herself, and the eventual justice that followed. One elderly woman, who had been shopping nearby, approached Ava with a smile. "I just wanted to say that what you did in there was incredible. You handled that woman with so much grace. It was inspiring. You deserve all the best, dear." Ava smiled warmly at the woman, her pride swelling. "Thank you. It's not always easy, but you can't let people push you around, especially when they're wrong." Others, too, came up to offer their congratulations and words of encouragement. It was as if Ava's strength had sparked something in them, a realization that standing up for what's right could bring about real change, even in the face of adversity. Ava's daughter, Lily, who had been watching quietly from a distance, ran over to her mother, her face bright with joy. "Mommy, did you see? You made everything better. I'm so proud of you." Ava bent down, scooping Lily into her arms. "Thank you, baby. I'm proud of you too." Her heart swelled with love and hope for the future. As they walked out of the store, Ava felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Not only had she fought for herself and her daughter, but she had also sent a powerful message. Racism, bullying, and injustice would never go unchallenged. In that moment, Ava knew she had done more than secure a job. She had taken a stand for dignity, respect, and equality, inspiring others to do the same. Her journey was just beginning, but she felt more empowered than ever before. The future was uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure: no matter what, she would always stand strong. As Ava and Lily left the store, the cool evening air embraced them, a welcome contrast to the tension they had just experienced. Ava held Lily's hand tightly as they walked, their footsteps in sync, their spirits lighter than they had been in a long time. They reached a nearby park, and Ava knelt down, looking at her daughter with a soft smile. "You know, baby," Ava said, her voice full of warmth, "sometimes life throws us challenges, and people might try to bring us down. But you can't let that stop you from being who you are and doing what's right." Lily nodded, her small hand gripping her mom's. "I know, Mommy. You showed them that being kind and standing up for yourself is the best thing to do." Ava's heart swelled with pride as she hugged her daughter tightly. "Exactly. And you know what? We've just made our little world a better place today. You're going to grow up knowing that no one can ever take away your worth, no matter who they are." They sat on the park bench, enjoying the serenity of the moment. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow across the horizon. Ava looked up at the sky, a sense of hope filling her heart. The road ahead was still long, but she was no longer afraid. The strength to face whatever came her way was within her, and she would pass it on to Lily, her precious daughter. The two of them sat quietly, soaking in the peaceful moment, knowing that they had just made a difference, not only in their own lives but in the world around them. Ava's thoughts shifted back to the message she wanted to send, not just to her daughter, but to everyone who might hear her story. The lesson was simple but powerful. Kindness, respect, and equality weren't just ideals. They were actions. The ability to stand up against discrimination, to challenge what was wrong, was the first step toward creating a world where everyone could be treated with dignity. Ava's quiet strength had shown that standing up for yourself and others wasn't just about confronting one person. It was about changing an entire mindset, one act of courage at a time. As they stood up to leave the park, Ava kissed Lily on the forehead and smiled. "We've got this, baby. Together, we can take on anything." The story closed with that simple, yet profound truth. Standing up for what's right, no matter how difficult, is always worth it. And in the end, kindness and equality would always triumph over hate and prejudice, asterisk, asterisk. As Ava and Lily walked away from the park, hand in hand, their hearts full of hope and strength, the story came to a close. But the message was just beginning to spread. If you've been inspired by Ava's story of resilience, kindness, and standing up against injustice, don't let it stop here. Share this message with your friends and family, and let's continue to spread love and equality everywhere we go. If you believe in the power of standing up for what's right, like this video and subscribe for more uplifting stories that will leave you inspired. Share this story with others who need to hear it, because together we can make a difference. Let's keep fighting for kindness, respect, and equality. Join the movement and stay tuned for more powerful stories coming your way. Remember, asterisk, asterisk, your voice matters, asterisk, asterisk.